Thank you so much for interviewing with me today.
Hi.
I guess let's get started, dive straight into it. So
Sounds good.
why don't you tell us all about, who you are and your business?
So I am a marketing strategist and business coach for wedding vendors who want to turn their creative passion into a wildly profitable business. I'm based out of Pennsylvania in the United States, so there's like a 15-hour difference between you and I. But it's been a journey, a good one, but it's been a journey.
Yeah. So Annie and I actually met through a mastermind we both were participating in earlier in the year, and we sort of bonded over, I guess, we weren't enjoying the content in the mastermind. We didn't feel it was very applicable to our businesses, and some of the techniques they were teaching felt, I guess, a bit slimy. Is that how you describe it?
Yeah.
Very, very, very salesy. I don't know. I don't think you could really use the word genuine. So yeah, we connected and bonded over that. And at the time, I think you had just quit your day job.
Yeah, so I started this business last summer, so August of last year, not thinking that it was going to be a business. I didn't have any aspirations to make it a business. I got my very first client, who is now just more of a friend than a client. But she introduced me, she's a wedding photographer. She introduced me to some of her vendor friends at a bridal show that we went to. And so all of a sudden, all of these people were coming to me saying, oh, I didn't even know that this existed. I didn't know that there was somebody who serviced our specific industry. So in October, a business was born. And that's what led me to where I am now. I left my full-time job in March. My original goal was to leave my full-time job in May of this year. So just a couple of weeks ago would have been my goal. But it happened rather quickly, which I'm thankful for. And I ended up leaving my job 2.5 months earlier than anticipated, because I just couldn't continue to take on, like I would have been turning down new clients had I not left my full-time job. So far, so good.
Yeah, so it just got to the point for you where you had so much work happening and so many inquiries that you just had to take the leap. What other things did you have in place so you could take that leap comfortably?
I'm married, so we have a joint income for our household. I'm not going to pretend my husband pays the mortgage, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I did the side hustle alongside my 9-to-5 for so long, and built up a pretty nice savings so that, God forbid, something happened and the floor fall out a couple of months after leaving my job, I had income to fall back on. And I'm glad that I did that. I haven't had to touch it yet. But knowing that it's there in the moments where I'm like starting to feel a little bit anxious about a project ending and needing to fill that spot, I know that I haven't had to touch it, but I know that it's there in case I need it, which has been helpful mentally on this wild.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important that people discuss this, because I see so much out there saying, just take the leap, just do it. But
you responsibly.
Yeah, responsibly, and have those things in place and built up your systems. And I know you've got a great sort of onboarding system with your clients, and you've really structured yourself so a lot of your work is ongoing retainer work rather than project-based. Has it always been that way, or is that something you sort of developed?
No, so this business has been has evolved so much between October and now. So that's what, 6 or 8 months. I've probably changed my business model 4 times throughout that period until I found what worked for me. I started out with an hourly model, and what I found was that I'm really efficient at doing the work, so I wasn't making as much money as I felt like I should be making. It just wasn't a sustainable model, so I quickly pivoted out of that, keeping the clients that I had on that payment structure because that's how they started. It wouldn't have been fair to them to change, but for new clients coming on, I changed to completely done for you marketing services that were project based, which was okay. But it was like a project that didn't always have a finite end date depending on the client's needs and the client's level of responsiveness. So they would pay me half up front, and I never knew when that second half was coming for the project. So I moved away from that. Yeah. And where I am now is a hybrid of retainer-based, done-for-you services, and also a coaching program for people who are more inclined to actually learn how to market, like how to become more efficient, how to implement their own systems, their business doesn't run their life, how to book rides through content marketing, how to handle SEO for their website. I teach them that versus just doing it for them, and then they have to come back to me if they want to make a change. So right now I'm kind of in a place where I have a hybrid of the two, depending on the client's needs.
Mm-hmm. So talk me through what kind of work you'd be doing with a typical client.
It totally depends. I'll give you an example. I have a bridal shop as a client right now. She's on a 3-month retainer with me. We're likely going to renew that in July when she's done. We started with the understanding that I was going to be helping her with her social media engagement. She's a fair amount of followers, but she's not getting a ton of engagement with her posts, which is an issue. It's social media. It's meant to be social. So we started with that assumption, and she also wanted to make some changes to her website. Well, found out that her website was owned by built on a proprietary system, so she couldn't actually make those changes. Completely pivoted.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah. So we completely pivoted, and I built her a brand new website on Squarespace that she will be able to very, very easily manage herself. But it truly is like, my clients get me for a period of time that we agree on up front, and there's a loose scope for the time that we have together. But really what we accomplish is based on what we uncover along the way. So she's not upset that she's not getting all of that social media work because she's getting a brand new website out of it.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And I think sometimes you've got to be in the business and working with someone to really know what they need, and tailoring, your services and what you're working on to the individual client is so important. There's so much out there now that's really cookie cutter, and this is how you do it, and this is the steps. And I just don't see that as being an effective model, because all businesses are different, and all business owners have a different amount of time to be able to dedicate to things. Some have no tech skills and can't turn on a computer. Others are really excited and willing to jump in and implement some stuff themselves. So it sounds great, the model that you've adopted. And just on that note, around those websites, I've worked with a few clients recently, same kind of thing. They get sucked in by these web design companies who build it all on their own systems, and it's a trap because you can't change anything. And it's not, you can't hire anybody but them to change things for you, which is great for them. Great business model for them. They keep getting return business. But if you're not happy with them, then where does that leave you and your website? You don't have any control. So I'm a massive fan of Squarespace. And I think you actually inspired me to rebuild my own website on Squarespace once we got talking, which is great. So I just want to return back to what we were talking about with the mastermind previously. And I think it really ties into now how you're tailoring your services. So we were part of a group coaching program, and it was definitely angled towards a certain type of business, which at the time wasn't necessarily what our businesses reflected. And as I mentioned, neither of us found it incredibly helpful. But you have since found another coach, and you're absolutely loving the work you're doing with her. So just talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, so I had come from a place where I was doing, like I mentioned, done for you services that were project based. That was like the most recent place that I was before the mastermind and now before this coach. And I still wasn't feeling like it was sustainable. There would definitely have been an income cap at some point, just based on the amount of output that I could physically do, the amount of work that I could physically take on. And so with the coach that I have hired, I've been with her about a month, and we have totally restructured my business to offer this like hybrid. And she has a very similar mentality. Like she says, you know, she's an online coach. She's in that space. I was very upfront with her and saying that I don't want to be that slimy, icky salesperson. Like, it's just not me. I'm not going to be the girl posting in Facebook groups. Like, it's just not me. And it's not where my clients are hanging out. So she has, she works with me on a very individual basis, one-on-one. We overhauled my programs. We overhauled my funnels. We've done all of these things, and she's been like, her hands have been in everything, which I appreciate, because that wasn't necessarily what we got before. And I don't think it's what you get from every coaching situation that you walk into. I will say that the previous program that we had been in, like, it didn't get a whole lot of value out of it, but I did learn what doesn't work for me. Yeah. I learned what I don't want to do, and there is some inherent value in that. Mm-hmm. So it's been good. It's been a totally different experience. She pushes me. She doesn't take any BS. Like, yeah, if I've done what I'm supposed to get done, or if I don't do what she's telling me to do, or if I'm putting up resistance that is meaningless, she'll call me on it. And personally, I appreciate that, because that's an approach that I take with my own clients. So yeah, she's just fit for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. And how is it for you? You're a marketer yourself. And this is something I find all the time, that it's so easy just being that one step back from a client's business. You can look at the whole situation and see where needs improvement. But when it's your own business, you are so up close and you've got so much emotional attachment to everything. It's really hard to look at anything, from the right perspective. So you're a marketer. How do you find having, marketing assistance through coaching? Is that a good experience for you, or?
It is, because I get so caught up sometimes in like the details. Like, I get so into the weeds, and she's like, it doesn't, I just by way of example, I had this like mental block around the words creative passion. So I gave my one-liner when we started. I'm a marketing strategist and business coach for wedding vendors who want to turn their creative passion into a profitable business. I had this mental block around the words creative passion because I felt like it was spammy and gross and like such a buzzword. And she was like, that's fine. I can sympathize with that. I don't like buzzwords either. But here's the deal. The people that you're talking to are going to describe what they do in that way. So you need to use their words.
Yes.
Right? So it's been a good experience in that way as well.
Yeah. So I know you and I, something we really bonded over is that we don't buy into mindset solves everything kind of thing. We're all about strategy. We love actionable steps. We love being hands-on. So it sounds to me like she's called you out on a few things there and a few mindset. I guess you could describe that as mindset. And how's that for you? Is that what you
Yeah. So she does live videos in her Facebook group a lot, and I watch them all. And she did one about how she rolls her eyes every time somebody says mindset, and I'm totally that girl. I don't buy into it, but I'm realizing now, having worked with her, that I do have some of those blocks. Like I do find myself falling into those traps, and having somebody call it to your attention. Like, I don't know that I would have called myself on it.
Yeah.
Because it's business and I'm too close to it to be able to take that step back and realize that even though I feel weird about it, my people aren't going to feel weird about it. Like, it's normal for them. It's their language. So yeah, she's called me on some of that stuff, which is good. And she doesn't use like the woo-woo words. I think a lot of people do. She's sensitive to the fact that I don't like that stuff. So.
That's great. It sounds like you found a really great match for you. So if you were speaking to someone who is thinking they need some help in their business, they need help with marketing, but they're a one-man band and they're trying to get things off the ground, what would you recommend they look for, say, in a coach or a marketing strategist?
So this is actually a technique that she's implementing with me that I think makes a lot of sense from just like a logical next step perspective. So I think a lot of times we feel like the only option is like, I do it myself, or I hire someone to either do it for me or teach me how to do it. Like, it's either totally DIY, I'm just going to download all the freebies and try to figure it out, or I'm going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, which I think is a little bit ridiculous, to hire someone to help me or to do it for me or whatever. But there is a middle ground. So the way that I was introduced to her was through her content. I downloaded her freebie, and her funnel guided me through a very natural process to get me to the point where I wanted to hire her. I'm not saying that necessarily, like, the funnel is going to be the thing that you judge the person on, but I consumed so much of her content that I felt like she was speaking to me. And I think there were certain things I knew I didn't want. Like, I didn't want someone who was going to shove the slimy Facebook group approach down my throat. I didn't want somebody who was going to try and push me into like a certain box. So I went into it taking like past experience, which I realize not everybody has, but I had a pretty clear idea of like what I wanted, and probably more importantly, what I didn't want. Because I think a lot of times you don't know what you want until you have it.
Yeah.
I knew what I didn't want.
Yeah.
So when recovery call with her,
that's the group program setting and the one size fits all kind of approach that you didn't want.
Yeah.
So we hear so much nowadays about your opt-in and your freebie and the sales funnel, and to be honest, I've sort of gotten to a certain point where I'm just going, oh, enough. Like, I'm so sick of hearing it. And a lot of the time I won't even read someone's first email that comes out because I'm just over it. They're not providing any value for me. And I've tuned out because I'm a freebie junkie. I sign up to everything. I sign up to every course, every webinar. I just consume so much content that I get to a point that I feel quite overwhelmed. What was it about her sales funnel that got you?
She used a lot of the same language that I would use. There were also points along the way when there were other smaller investment options.
Okay.
So I consumed some of those as well to get a feel for her style at a paid level.
Yeah.
So like, I was making an investment, and if I didn't get anything out of that $19 or that $100 investment, then I probably wasn't going to get anything out of the big coaching program. but I don't know that I could pick out like one thing about it. It felt right. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but it just.
No, that's all right. But sort of going with your gut, and if she's speaking your language, I guess it's one of those situations where she's your people. You're like, she's
she had also, so I'll be 30 this year. I've had almost a decade of corporate marketing experience. And I knew this time around that I needed a coach who had that kind of background.
Yes.
Who understood where I was coming from and some of the baggage that you take out of that into like entrepreneurial journey. And she had that. That was important to me because I feel like a lot of people in the online space don't always have that. So that was important to me too.
So she worked in marketing.
Yeah, in some really high level positions in high level companies.
And I think that's amazing because I see so many new coaches out there who are doing mindset work or they're marketing strategists and they've got no qualifications. They've never worked in the industry. They've just sort of jumped out of their full-time job thinking, I can do this. Anyone can do this. I can do this. But I think it's really important that someone has experience in the industry and understands what goes along with the corporate job and some of their, I guess, roadblocks and things they experience as well. And the politics, and I just think it helps you work with clients so much better.
And I don't think it's a requirement necessarily, but it definitely, like, it helps me relate to her, and I think it helps me relate to my clients who are in a position where they're trying to make their photography business that they do, like they shoot weddings on the weekends, but they're trying to make it a full-time job. Like, I can relate to that because that's what I did.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a nice connection point there for you. So you work with a lot of photographers. You work with a bridal dress shop. Do you work with a few venues as well?
Yeah, I have one currently. I had another in the past that I did a project for.
So a whole range in the wedding industry, which is, fantastic.
The riches are in the niches, and that's what I found. As soon as I niche down, so I think sometimes we have this like limiting thought that when you narrow the pool of people that you're speaking to, that less of them will come to you. But I found the opposite to be true. Like, when I niched down and really like ingrained myself in that industry, I ended up with like more clients than I thought I would without having to do any real marketing. So,
and I think for you, it's one of those things where you almost kind of fell into it through your connections, and you ran with it. Though, I mean, you had the opportunity earlier in the year or even late last year to go, no, I'm going to expand my net, but you didn't, and that's obviously really worked for you. And I completely agree. Having you running with it.
Yeah, I believe in attracting and repelling too. Like, I have people that make referral. They know I'm in marketing, and they refer their friends who have a business to me. And if it's not, I'll go a little bit further out of the wedding industry if it's like a female with a creative, in like some sort of creative industry. But like somebody referred a realtor to me, somebody referred a painter to me, and that's just not, I can't help them. I don't feel like I can help them.
It's not your passion, it's not your expertise.
Yeah, so I'm fine with turning it down, knowing that the right people will end up.
Absolutely. So, for you, how do you find clients? I mean, you're a digital marketer, but that's not where a lot of your connections and clients are coming from, is it?
No. So interestingly enough, I am a member of the Rising Tide Society, which is big in the creative maker community. There's a local chapter that one of my current clients and myself founded. Gosh, that was maybe 6 months ago. So we meet monthly, and it's a lot of the same people come, but there's some new people that come that I get introduced to, but they're all in that space. They're all in either the wedding industry or like fall within my purview.
Yes.
So all of my clients that I have currently have come from that group. I'm a digital marketer that hasn't had to market myself yet.
Yeah.
We'll see. I believe, and I encourage my clients too, that there's something to be said about networking. Because these people hire me because they've met me a couple of times or we've interacted in some capacity and they trust me. Like they know that I know what I'm talking about and they trust me.
Absolutely. So, on that note too, though, I mean, you're meeting them in person and I can guarantee you they have gone away and stalked your social media. They've opted into your freebie. They've explored your website. So in this situation for you, the digital side of things really cements their trust in you.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're not going to hire me to build their website if my website sucks. Right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, but our monthly meeting was this morning and I got home and I had like 6 new Instagram followers from girls that were there today that I hadn't met before. So it's true that there's definitely, even though I'm not like paying to market digitally, it's still happening.
Yeah. And I think that's a really great point as well. You don't have to be paying to advertise for it to be working for you. And I know we spoke a few months back now about one of the clients that you're working with, and how you don't actually encourage people to spend money on advertising online until they've built up a bit of an organic following and building those connections, which I think is great. A lot of people would say you've got to spend money straight off the bat, and it's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, judiciously, if it makes sense, then great. But if not, then there's other ways to do it.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to tailoring it for your own business and what stage you're at, and also your budget as well. Not diving into something and spending a fortune on advertising. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know why you're doing it.
That's fair.
So, for people in the creative industry just starting out, what is your number one marketing tip for them to get clients?
I think I would recommend having a holistic approach to how you look at marketing. So I see a lot of people say like, boy, I've neglected SEO. I really need to make that a focus right now. But that directly ties into your content marketing, which directly ties into social media, which like there's this domino effect. So I guess first and foremost, I would recommend getting your house in order, like put systems in place, put processes in place, implement technology, implement software to make your job easier so that when you do book more, in my case, for my clients, when they do book more brides, they're ready to handle it without feeling like bogged down and overwhelmed. So that's like in my big one-on-one program, that's where we start, is with systems. And then from there, taking a holistic approach to marketing. So like a lot of people think that they need to be on Instagram and Twitter and Google Plus and Pinterest and Facebook and all these places. And you really don't necessarily have to do that. You don't necessarily have to use email marketing. You don't necessarily have to blog. You don't necessarily have to do anything. But when you look at the business as a whole and the big picture, I think you can really weave together a strategy that works a lot better than if you said, I'm going to go really hard at blogging right now,
Yeah.
which is fine. But then you run out of steam and you transition somewhere else and you lose the synergy. So I think that would be my recommendation, is just to look at the big picture and not just bite off like little nuggets at a time.
Absolutely. And I think that ties into being consistent as well. Like what you were saying with the blogging, don't go full pelt at it and then run out of content ideas a week later and stop. And I see that a lot. People start doing interviews, for example, or podcasts, or creating this great content, and then you don't hear from them again for 6 months. So yeah, I think that's a really great tip. So where can people find you?
I am on Instagram, Annie_McCarty. My website is anniemccarty.com. And other than that, I use Pinterest as my probably my biggest traffic source. So you'll find content from me around systems, blogging, content strategy, social media, SEO, all for creative professionals, all for people in the wedding industry on Pinterest.
Awesome. And I will include a link to all of that for anyone watching this interview below. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me, Annie. It's been great talking to you, and I hope everyone has gotten some really great nuggets out of this interview.
Awesome. Thanks, Sonia.